So I'm excited to share a God story with you this morning. We like to have a God story almost every week where someone in our church shares a testimony of what God has done in their lives. And today, I'm so excited to share my story. For those I haven't met yet, my name is Becky Miller, and I'm on the pastoral staff here at Damascus Road. I've been here in Maastricht for about 7 years. The pastor who planted this church, Kent Linaway, was my youth pastor in high school. I'm from the same hometown as our lead pastor, Matthew Lunders, and Pastor Matt and I led a small group together when we were high school students. And so when Kent Linaway moved here to the Netherlands and came to Maastricht to plant Damascus Road, he had invited Matt and his wife Christine and me and my husband Matthew to come here and to be a part of the work that Kent was doing. And being a part of this church has radically transformed my life. I grew up as a Christian. My dad is a pastor. But being in this international fellowship has broadened my mind to understand how big the kingdom of God really is and the many expressions of God's people that there are around the world. So being here and directing our small groups ministry for the 7 years that I've been here has radically transformed my life as a disciple of Jesus and made me passionate about making disciples. A few years ago, I'd say about 3.5 years ago, I've always loved missions. I've always loved teaching and ministry, but I felt God specifically start to call me to become a pastor. And I felt like with such a serious calling and responsibility as that, I needed to be better prepared. So I felt like for me that meant going to seminary. But I didn't want to leave my community here to do that. So I was praying about how to pursue a theological education to become a better equipped pastor and teacher. And there's a Christian author and theologian, Dr. Scott McKnight, and I had begun reading his books and was really impacted by the way that Scott loves the church. And he's a brilliant New Testament scholar, and he's got all of these academic qualifications, but when he talks and when he teaches, he doesn't teach like a scholar. He teaches like someone in the church. He teaches like someone with a pastor's heart and a teaching heart. And he writes academic theology in such a way that people who don't have a seminary education can understand it. And I loved that about his books. I would have loved to study with Scott, but I thought I can't move to Chicago where he teaches at Northern Seminary because I want to stay here. But then I had connected with him through his blog, and one day I was walking along the Maas when I checked my phone, and he had sent me a message on Instagram saying, "Hey, my Master's in New Testament is going to be available live streaming. Are you still interested? You can study from the Netherlands." And I knew that that was exactly where God was calling me to be and exactly what God was calling me to do. And so I applied, I got accepted, I got all the recommendations, financial aid got sorted out, and it felt like if you've ever gone skiing and you've gone up maybe a lower slope, but they've got just a rope tow. You're not on the big chair lift, but you've just got a rope tow. You just get on your skis and you hold onto the rope and it just pulls you up a mountain. And that's what my path into seminary felt like. God just worked everything out faster and more smoothly than I could have imagined for me to start seminary. So I do an online live program, and so I sit in my classroom through Zoom, which is like Skype, on Monday nights from 11 p.m. to 1:40 a.m. So if you ever see me on a Tuesday morning, I look like a zombie from having had my head buried in seminary the night before. And as I've been in school for the past 3 years, I've got 1 more year left, and then I'll have my Master's in New Testament. I've connected with Scott more than just as a teacher, but he's become a friend and a mentor as well. And I knew that he was a writer, and I've always wanted to write books, and so I wanted to impress him with my writing. And so I took a gamble with my first couple papers that I wrote for Dr. McKnight's classes. And instead of writing just standard, dry academic theology, I went for very creative angles, and I thought he's either going to hate these or he's going to love them. I'm either going to fail or I'm going to get an A. And luckily, I got A's, and he loved my papers. And he has gone above and beyond to mentor me as a writer, even beyond his work as my theology professor. A couple summers ago, when I was in Chicago for my 1-week intensive, I go once a year for an in-person class, I started thinking about how to write a discipleship curriculum based on some of Scott's books and some of his work. As I've led the small groups here at Damascus Road, I've tried every different type of curriculum for Bible study that's out there, and I still hadn't quite found the kind of discipleship curriculum I was looking for. I love the community Bible studies we do, but I was also looking for something to teach people how to be followers of Jesus. So I put together an outline and brought it to Scott at lunch one day while I was in Chicago and said, hey, what do you think about doing a discipleship curriculum based on your books? He liked the idea, we talked about it some, but then we both got involved in other projects. So almost a year ago, last May, on my birthday, I was up at midnight writing a paper that was due the next morning, and Scott messaged me and said, hey, my editor at Zondervan, which is an American publisher, wants to do a discipleship curriculum based on some of my books. Are you interested? And before, I think he had barely pushed send on the message before I was typing back, yes, I'm in. And so for the past year, I've been working on this book, Following Jesus. And this is a 24-week discipleship curriculum that uses excerpts from 4 of Scott's books. So each lesson has an excerpt from one of his books, and then I created a personal Bible study and prayer guide, and then a small group guide. And this just came out on April 16th, and it was so thrilling to hold a book in my hands with my name on it. And I'm so honored that Dr. McKnight trusted me enough to put his name on the cover, to lend his name to mine, to give me credibility in the publishing world. And I can't even thank him enough for that. And I dedicated the book to you, my church. The dedication says, to the people of Damascus Road International Church, continue to follow King Jesus, as you love as Jesus loved, teach what Jesus taught, and obey as Jesus obeyed. And that is the motto that Pastor Matthew has written for our church that we repeat over and over. And I couldn't think of a better dedication because I have learned here how to be a disciple of Jesus in all new ways. And it is my honor to serve you on the pastoral staff here, to be a part of shepherding you and pointing you toward Jesus. That is such a humbling honor, and I am so very grateful. So thank you for letting me serve you. Thank you for teaching me. There's stories about our church in this book. There's a story about Judith and Willem, and here is a story about my small group. And in the acknowledgments, many of you are named for the ways that you have helped me care for my kids, care for my home, the ways that you've interacted with me on some of this material and helped me learn through sharing your experiences. So this is for you. Thank you so much. One of our servant leaders, Blaze, is also an author himself and a life coach, and Blaze has organized an event after church today. He's going to interview me about the book. We're going to talk about being followers of Jesus, what it means to be a disciple, how to study the Bible, how to live life in the church together. So you are very welcome to stay afterwards if you'd like to listen in on that conversation. We've brought lunch and snacks, so please stay after the service and have lunch with us and learn a little bit more about being followers of Jesus.